from my childhood home, Atlantis, on the shores of Lake Geneva. I realised I had been seated exactly where I was now when CeCe had come into our miserable little sitting room to tell me that Pa Salt was dead. I put down the pen and went to pour myself a glass of water from the tap. It was clammy and airless in the sticky heat, and I drank thirstily as I contemplated the fact that I didn't need to do this, to put myself through the pain of remembering. It was Tiggy, my younger sister, who, when I'd seen her at Atlantis just after Pa died, had suggested the idea. "Darling Star," she said, when some of us sisters had gone out onto the lake to sail, simply trying to distract ourselves from our grief. "I know you find it hard to speak about how you feel. I also know you're full of pain. Why don't you write your thoughts down?" On the plane home from Atlantis 2 weeks ago, I'd thought about what Tiggy had said, and this morning, that's what I had endeavoured to do. I stared at the brick wall, thinking wryly that it was a perfect metaphor for my life just now, which at least made me smile. And the smile carried me back to the scarred wooden table that our shady landlord must have picked up for nothing in a junk shop. I sat back down and again picked up the elegant ink pen Pa Salt had given me for my 21st birthday. "I will not start with Pa's death," I said out loud. "I will start when we arrived here in London." The crash of the front door closing startled me, and I knew it was my sister CeCe. Everything she did was loud. It seemed beyond her to put a cup of coffee down without banging it onto the surface and slopping its contents everywhere. She had also never grasped the concept of an indoor voice and shouted her words to the point where, when we were small, Ma was once worried enough to get her hearing tested. Of course, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it was the opposite. CeCe's hearing was overdeveloped. There was nothing wrong with me when a year later Ma took me to the speech therapist, concerned at my lack of chatter. "She has words there, she just prefers not to use them," the therapist had explained. "She will when she's ready." At home, in an attempt to communicate with me, Ma had taught me the basics of French sign language. "So, whenever you want or need something," she said to me, "you can use it to tell me how you feel, and this is how I feel about you right now." She pointed at herself, crossed her palms over her heart, then pointed at me. "I love you." CeCe had learnt it quickly too, and the two of us had adopted and expanded what had begun as a means of communication with Ma to form our own private language, a mixture of signs and made-up words, using it when people were around and we needed to talk. We both enjoyed the baffled looks on our sisters' faces as I'd sign a sly comment across the breakfast table, and we'd both dissolve into helpless giggles. Looking back, I could see that CeCe and I became the antithesis of each other as we were growing up. The less I spoke, the louder and more often she talked for me, and the more she did, the less I needed to. Our personalities had simply become exaggerated. It hadn't seemed to matter when we were children, squashed into the middle of our six-sister family. We'd had each other to turn to. The problem was, it mattered now. "Guess what? I found it!" CeCe burst into the sitting room. "And in a few weeks' time, we can move in. The developer's got some finishing off to do, but it'll be incredible when it's done. God, it's hot in here. I can't wait to leave this place." CeCe went to the kitchen, and I heard the whoosh of the tap being turned on full blast, knowing that the water had most likely spattered all over the worktops I had painstakingly wiped down earlier. "Want some water, Sia?" "No, thanks." Although CeCe only used it when we were alone, I mentally chided myself for being irritated by the pet name she had coined for me when we were little. It came from a book Pa Salt had given me for Christmas, the story of Anastasia about a young girl who lived in the woods in Russia and discovered she was